Welcome to How to Be a Person, a podcast about life with me, your host, Giuliano Grimaudo. Rob, what's going on, my friend?
Dude, I'm doing well. I'm excited to be here. Thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate you coming on. So, for anybody listening and for me, because we've never met before, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and we'll get to know each other a bit.
My name's Rob. I'm a high performance coach. I teach a lot of skills to kind of shine light on awareness on different things that kind of holding people back, feeling stuck in their either professional life or personal life, and kind of game plan things that help them move to that next level, whatever it may be. And I facilitate a lot of workshops on self-leadership, conflict resolution, communication styles, navigating power dynamics, things like that, and public speaking too. Man of many hats, and I'm always looking for the next one to throw on too. So
Very cool. I remember a while back I read a book from Brendan Burchard called High Performance something. I'm assuming you're probably familiar with it. But like for someone who's just coming on and maybe is like not familiar, like I'm super into like personal growth and personal development, but I feel like a lot of people when they hear stuff about that, it all sounds very kind of like out there, and kind of like,
yeah,
oh, what is all this? I've heard a lot of people just like scam, which I'm not that way at all, right? I love like the personal development space, but I'm curious like what your take on that is. Like if someone is kind of like, what even is that?
yeah. I mean, if someone asks and they're like, okay, well, what is it you actually do? I just kind of show them like, hey, I act as like a sounding board. I help kind of look at people's lives and what they're going through, different projects or whatever it is that they are kind of feeling stuck with. And I give them a second lens to kind of look through, and then providing some insights and different strategies, because yeah, it can be very woo woo kind of in the personal development world. It's like, oh, just think bigger and do better. It's like, okay, well, how? And then it's like, all right, well, let's discuss different strategies that we can take to, or different approaches to whatever it is we're kind of working on. Some people it's physical, mental, and emotional instability in their lives. Like I worked with this one individual who originally came to me to lose some weight, but then after working together, realized that he was struggling to kind of set up the system so he can get to the gym, mostly because of his work situation. He was in a job that he'd been in for like 10 years, very emotional, thrown off all the time because of his superiors. And that was really the wrench that was destroying him. And he didn't really know that he wanted to switch careers. And then eventually we kind of worked through a bunch of things, and he got himself in a new industry and lost like 40 pounds, and he got out of this like isolated environment he was in. And now he's in a much better, happier place. And obviously everyone is a little bit different, and you have to be open to it. You got to have like that little bit of awareness to know that you are looking for something else. Because my girlfriend's that way. She's like, oh, I don't understand anything you do. Like, why do you go to these conferences, these events?
Yeah.
Like, who are these people and things like that? And she's cool with it. She's got a very comfortable job where she's happy, does whatever she does every day, and she's not looking for anything else. And so it's not everyone's cup of tea.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and I was going to say this before you mentioned your girlfriend, so no knock on your girlfriend. But I think like some people are kind of just like living their life and operating, like you said, just kind of like, hey, yeah, like everything's pretty good. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing. And then I feel like there's other people who are like, I want to reach my ultimate potential in life. Like I don't want to just do what's expected of me. Like I want to accomplish something. I want to make an impact. And it seems like those are probably more the people that you're trying to work with, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it comes down to like the motives and drives. Like, I'm pretty big into it because of the like leadership communication, like coaching and research I've been doing a lot. But I kind of understand that. So like for my girlfriend, for example, she's more of a security drive. So she needs to have like the system. She needs to have that structure for her 9 to 5. She needs to have that stable paycheck. And she's happy with that. She knows she'll get a little bit of a raise every year or whatever, whenever that comes. And she's cool with doing that. Me, I know I'm an adversity drive. I'm also an achievement drive. So like, I need to challenge myself. I need to work towards bigger and better things. And like, I can't stay in that same like stuck same spot. Like it'll drive me insane. I had like a salary job when I was like in my early 20s, and I was just like cruising, and I was like, what is going on in my life? Like, this is terrible. Like, I need to get out there and take on some new challenges.
Hmm. Yeah, no, I could totally see that. So how long have you been in this kind of like coaching space?
So coaching, so my background's actually in strength and conditioning. I
Mm,
got my master's in exercise science, and that's where I was. I was like, I got to this point where I like had this taste of entrepreneurship. Are you
hmm.
familiar with the world of strength and conditioning, like as a coach?
No, not really.
So typically when you go and you get like college, you get like the degrees and you go through the certifications and stuff. There's like two paths that you typically would take.
Okay.
You either go like collegiate and then try to eventually get to like a professional team and
Mm,
work with like pros,
okay.
or you go the private route and you open a gym and you work one on one and
Mm,
you kind of build like a business. And
okay.
I went that private route,
Yeah.
which is more of like the entrepreneurial world. And that was great in the beginning because that allowed me to like scale my book of business up. And I got to a point where I was working like 15, 16, sometimes 17-hour days, back to back sessions,
Damn.
crazy. I did it for 7 days a week for about 3 years. And while I was doing that, my life just like fell apart around
Yeah,
me.
of course, right?
And yeah, so I was like, oh, geez, there's got to be something different to this. And that's where I kind of embraced my love for personal development and kind of reflected on what's helped me be successful through life. And that helped me create my coaching process. And then, yeah, like, so my total coaching between both of them is
Mm.
like around 15, 16 years now.
Oh, wow.
So it's essentially it's the same thing, but through a different lens. So like in strength
Yeah.
and conditioning, you got to figure out the needs and the wants. What are the goals they're trying to do? And now it's same thing, but different, more problems to try to solve.
Yeah, yeah. You know what I was thinking of before when you mentioned the guy who came to you for weight loss and then ended up being something else? I've heard it said before that like you need to sell people what they want, but give them what they need. And I've coached people in different areas before, and I've found that like it always there's always like something like a mental block that you're like, I wish I could just tell people like, hey, it's a mental thing. Like, let's talk about that. But it's for some reason, like people don't want that. You know what I mean? They're looking for a specific outcome. And so it's like, oh, you need to be like a weight loss coach or like a sales coach or whatever it might be. And then when you get into it, you're like, okay, so it's your mindset. So let's talk about that.
Yeah. I had a mentor that once told me, he's like, all coaching is life coaching. Like it's just
Mm,
all going to come down to
yep.
like how do you improve your life some one way or another. It's like it's all about that mindset. Like it's all there. So
Yeah, yeah, it's so true. And I do. It's funny. I never heard that before, but I love that. All coaching is life coaching. 'Cause, I mean, that basically sums it up. It's true. It's
yeah.
like people want like a specific outcome, but ultimately, the thing that's holding them back is like their what's happening in their mind. Have you found that
Yeah.
to be the case with all the clients you've worked with, or what?
For the most part, it's like it's all everyone's looking obviously to have a better life. Otherwise,
Hmm.
they would just be happy with what they're doing and they would
Yeah.
never seek extra coaching or anything. But yeah, it's something like if their business is they're struggling to scale their business, it could be like their ability to communicate or to
Mm,
like create systems and processes and things like that. And then that usually is a reflection of okay, well, what's going on in their life? And looking at their like they don't even have a Google Calendar, but they're trying to like build a business and strategize all this other stuff. I'm like, dude, you gotta like block
uh,
something where you can like know you gotta go somewhere and do something. You can't just be like, oh shoot, I had that meeting I was supposed to go to.
You know what's so funny? Okay, first of all, I'm like a very organized person, so like it shocks me. Like I mean, I meet business owners all the time who I'm just like, "What? You don't have a calendar?" Or like it's
Yeah.
just something like that where you're like, "Oh my god, this is insane. Like how are you even existing as a business owner?" But what I will say is that I've noticed that so here's what's funny, right? Like remember before I was talking about like people be like, "Oh, coaching, it's a scam, blah blah blah."
Yeah.
So this is kind of what my perspective is because I think there's a lot of look, I think people approach coaching and selling coaching from different angles, and I think all of them are okay. Okay, but there's a lot of coaches out there who'd be like, you only need to work with some, you need to work with people who've gotten the exact same results that you want to get. And I don't discount that. There absolutely is value in that. But also at the same time, right? When you think about the people who've coached, like let's say Michael Jordan or like some other like crazy like successful sports player, it's not people who reached that level that they did, right? It's
Yeah.
somebody who's good at coaching, right? Like they can coach someone to their potential. And I feel like it's an important like thing to differentiate. Like, yes, it is absolutely valuable to learn from someone who has gotten to where you want to go, but also coaching in itself is a skill. And so just
Yeah.
because someone maybe hasn't achieved the exact thing that you want to achieve does not mean that getting coaching from that person is not valuable. There are plenty, like I said, I've talked to a lot of business owners, and like you can, there is something about, so not just business owners, right, but just in general in your life, there is something about just that third party perspective. Someone who is like on the outside and just steps up and goes like, bro, you're dropping the ball right here. How do you not see that? You know, and it feels like it almost feels just like so stupidly obvious, but like just having that person on the outside, it can completely change the game.
Yeah. Well, because when you're in the game and you're stuck, like you only see what you can see, and like obviously, like you definitely don't see your blind spots. So anything that's kind of like missing or you're lacking, you need that external perspective to kind of shine the light. And yeah, it does help if like that voice that's coming in is somebody that either has something that you're trying to do, or they have the experience or whatever, because that does help. But there's also like at a stage, there's going to be a time where you need to adapt to certain things. So like if you're starting out in the world and like you have no mentor or a person to kind of learn from, yeah, it's good to idolize or try to reflect or do the things
Mm-hmm.
that somebody who's been in your shoes has already done.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm curious, like, who are you like specifically working with mostly right now, or like taking on right now? Is it like entrepreneurs or what?
Yeah, it's like solopreneurs and just individuals who are kind of like they a lot of guys have like side hustles that they're trying to kind of establish as like it's like a hobby. They're trying to start to make a little bit of
Mm,
money from it, and then they're like, okay, well, when do I switch this into like an actual business, and how do I do that?
mm,
Because that's all like the same area where I was back in the day. Like, okay, I got this coaching, this fitness business. What do I do? How do I shift this? How do I change this? How do I do those things? And like I don't like I'm not coaching people on like scaling multi-billion-dollar businesses,
sure,
but because I don't know how to do that myself. Like
sure.
I know how to then optimize certain things for you in your life. Like I'm not a business coach either. I'm just like, hey, what can we do so that we show
Mm,
up as a better version so
mm.
that our business can be more successful? Or how do we connect with other individuals? And maybe we got to look at communication styles and like how do we create more influence at networking events and things like that.
Interesting. I've heard you mention communication styles a few times already. Can you kind of like expand on that a little?
Yeah, so so this is great. I had this guy that was an ex strength and conditioning coach, and he's gone on to kind of shift his career and focus, and now he's just in communication, leadership, and all that stuff. And he's built this business where he essentially goes into these big organizations like Apple, Microsoft, and big sports teams to kind of teach their managers and coaches how to influence players and
Mm.
employees, how to communicate and resolve conflict. And the more that I started going to his workshops, I was like, dude, I'm consuming all of this. I'm like signing up for the next one as I'm walking out the door for the last one.
Yeah.
And then he invited me to kind of come on and be a facilitator for his workshop. So I'm learning a lot of things. And one of the first things that he teaches is like, okay, whether you're a coach or if you're a networking event or wherever you're at, whoever you're communicating with, you got to figure out the context of the situation first. Then you got to understand who you're communicating with, and then you can start to navigate the dynamics and such. So the communication styles comes from, okay, who are you talking to?
Mm.
And there's like four of them.
Okay.
There's the realist, who's more like be it like no BS, like straight to the point, like you got to do this, blah 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 blah, action 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 kind of thing.
Okay.
There's the relator, who's more visionary, kind of inspirational, can connect, storytelling. He like shares a lot of metaphors and things like that.
Mm.
Then there's like the empathizer. So this is more emotional put into it. This person connects better on personal relationships and things like that. And then there's also the analyst, who's all like numbers, data driven kind of thing.
Okay.
Everybody's going to be a blend of those, but most people kind of tend to fall into one category or another.
Okay.
When you're communicating with somebody, you can start to pick up certain insights on those things. And then it depends on what you're trying to do. So if you're trying to sell something, you might want to start to use their communication style so that your influence might land a little bit better. But like if you're a guy who's like all data and I come to you and I'm like, dude, like you got to think like, remember when Rocky like overcame that and blah, blah, blah. You're gonna be like, dude, I don't give a fuck about that.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
I just want to know the numbers.
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
it's not gonna land very well.
Interesting, interesting. Yeah, I've been in. I've done. I've had like a lot of sales jobs, and I have looked into a few different things that were like kind of similar to that. But that's yeah, that's super interesting. And you're right, like everyone does kind of fall into one of these like main categories. Like I like from what I learned before, I was looking at it as more of like a personality type. But that is interesting, like to classify it in terms of like how they communicate, because that's really what it comes down to. It's like if you're trying to like reach somebody, whatever it is you're trying to influence is like communicating the same way they do. It can be like super effective. Okay, that's really
Yeah,
interesting.
there's like always archetypes. There's like tons of archetypes of individuals, but you could be one type of an archetype, and it's all about like gathering more information, right? So you understand the party that you're talking with or coaching, because then you can, if you know their archetype, you know their communication style, you know their drives, you know all this different information, then you know to show up to the conversation a little bit different. Like the guy
Mm,
who was looking to lose weight and then shifted career paths, and all these other things kind of came out as I was working with him.
yeah.
And I'm trying to like make it all statistical. I'm like, dude, you got to hit the gym this many days a week. You got to send this many emails to different job opportunities and things like that. And then after I got more and more into it, I realized that he's not an analyst style. He's
Mm,
a empathizer. So he's all about like, he's an empathizer with some like relator tendency. So he's more storytelling. And then I found out that he's an author and he's been trying to write this book for so long. And I'm like, oh my God, that's
mm,
so makes sense. So when I show up to our coaching, I'm trying to use different influence tactics that'll help the action stick a little bit better, and then connect with him so that he can continue to do the things that he's trying to.
mm. Yeah, I like that. You know, it's funny. I know a lot of people probably hearing this like think like, oh, this feels like manipulative or whatever. But what's so funny is that like I found like I've had to like think about that perspective before, not just from like, you know, learning about like influencing people, but like in sales, right? Because there's a lot of people who also feel like sales is unethical. It's like, oh, you're trying to manipulate someone into doing something. But I feel like ultimately, if you have a way in order to help someone to achieve what they want to achieve, it's like, does it really matter? Right? Like if it's just, well, I just have a deeper understanding of communication, so why would I not use that if I truly believe that this is like what's best for the person? Like, of course, I'm going to use every tool in my arsenal in order to get them to take the action they want to take or reach the goal they're trying to reach.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it starts with that. You got to be a good person to start with. And like, you got to have a good product too.
Mm,
If you really believe in your product, like you're going to want to have other people who are going to benefit from whatever it is you're doing. Because like, if I didn't believe in my coaching and the process and the things that I do, it would be so much harder to sell, because then I'm just trying to like snake oil salesman.
mm,
I'm just trying to take people's
yeah,
money, and then I'm not going to have the results or the testimonials, and like it just makes it so much harder. But when you believe in it and you know that you can actually help somebody, like that's the same thing. Like I'm not everyone's cup of tea.
sure.
Like I know my coaching, my communication style definitely lands with certain individuals more so than others.
Mm.
Like I can tend to fall into more of like the realist kind of like, hey, dude. Sometimes I'll be like, dude, you haven't been doing anything. Like you didn't like what's going on
Yeah.
here. Like you didn't do
You're
this, you didn't
complaining
do
you don't have
that.
results, but you haven't done shit. So what are we talking about
Yeah,
here?
and like I've had to end ties with a couple clients
Yeah.
because I just couldn't communicate as effectively with them,
Mm,
and that's not what they were looking for. But then I would refer to them to another coach who would be a little bit better at working with that kind of an individual, and then they have all this great success. And I don't want to ruin the relationship. I want them to do as best as they can. So I'd rather them work with somebody who can help them
mm,
than just continue to pay me.
yeah.
And like otherwise then like they're going to go and have a better experience with somebody else, and then hopefully down the road they still remember me and they're like, oh, you know what, you'd be great for Rob actually.
Mm, yeah, totally. Yeah, it's so funny. I always bring up those like opposing perspectives of people being like, "This is a scam," or like whatever, like being judgmental or criticizing sales or whatever, because I I feel like I've always been that type of person where I like to like put myself in like someone else's shoes looking at me, and not to like I don't overthink stuff. I definitely just do stuff. I'm not an overthinker, but I do like to analyze things from different angles. And so I tend to like
Yeah.
put myself in these shoes. But like ultimately, like you said, if you're a good person and you actually care about getting people results, then like it's important to use every tool in your arsenal. But like you said, like if you actually care, like you will just pass that person on to someone else, because really it's
Yeah.
like I just want you to get the results, even if it's not through me, you know?
Yeah. I love that you said that because I get sometimes I just play devil's advocate just to play,
Hmm.
and my girlfriend sometimes will be like, "What are you talking about?" Like I'm like, "Wait, but think about it from their perspective. Maybe they're late. Maybe they're
Yeah.
like their wife is giving birth or something like that. Maybe he's just being an asshole because he needs to like hurry up and get there." Like,
Yeah.
and then she's like, "You know who that is? That was Mike. Like he's just being how he is." And I'm like, "Yeah, I know, but maybe today's a different day."
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm on your side still. I'm just trying to think of it from a different lens.
Yeah, I've really like, especially as of lately, tried to put myself in other people's shoes because, um, and this is getting a little bit, into a different direction, but I've, been thinking a lot about like just the nature of people and the nature of reality. And like, I feel like we are so connected and like we are so like I feel like if any of us were able to step like literally step into someone else's shoes that we would pretty much be the same person as that other person. Right. And so I look at it and I'm trying to like just be better about like, because when I'm driving on the road, I feel like that's probably the biggest thing. Like I was just talking to my wife about this. When it's just me and her, I'm like, I love people. People are amazing, right? And I give people the benefit of the doubt. And then I'm on the road, I'm like, oh my God, such a dumbass. Like what kind of idiot
Yeah,
would turn there or whatever. And yeah, so I've just been like really trying to put myself in like other people's shoes like a lot lately.
yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah, I had to drop my girlfriend off at the airport this morning and she was like, "Oh, this dickhead right here behind you. You should brake check them." And I'm like, "Whoa, maybe they're late for work."
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Where are you at, by the way?
Stanford, Connecticut, so like northeast.
Oh, okay, nice. Yeah, I'm down in Arizona.
Oh, nice. Yeah, I go out there a few times a year for different workshops and such.
Oh, okay.
I got
Well,
some clients in
yeah.
yeah, Scottsdale, Phoenix. I think Anthem. There's not really too much up in Anthem, but my mentor that I was telling you about, who teaches me a lot of the communication and leadership stuff, he's up that way. So I'm out there a couple
Oh,
times a
okay.
year.
Nice, nice. Yeah. Now that it's funny because now that you say that, I think, oh yeah, there actually is a lot of stuff that happens out here, especially in that space. Like, I feel like there's a lot
Yeah.
of like sales and like mindset coaching. And I don't know if do you know Dean Graziosi?
Yeah, it's crazy because he actually grew up in like the town over from my hometown,
Oh,
upstate New
really?
York in like the Hudson Valley. Yeah, I was like listening to his stuff and I was like, he sounds so familiar, his last name. And then like I texted, like this was years ago, I texted this girl that I dated in high school and I was like, "Is Rebecca's last name Graziosi?" And he was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Is Dean related?" He's like, "Oh yeah, yeah, he's like my uncle or whatever." And I was
Oh,
like, "Oh,
really?
such a weird world."
Wow, that is funny. Well, yeah, his headquarters, the mastermind headquarters, is in Scottsdale. So
Uh,
there's like stuff that happens out here too. Yeah, I wanted to ask you because you've been in, like obviously, like you said, right now you kind of help focus more on like entrepreneurs and even just high performance stuff. But so it probably ties in. But I'm curious because I wrote a book about habits, and I'm just kind of curious, like how you feel habits tie into all of this.
well, I think they're. I think regardless of what you kind of feel and believe, I think we've all got different habits. So whether we're aware of them or not, and I think shining awareness on your habits and at least paying attention to the ones that you do have
Hmm.
helps you because like if you want to improve in some other form of your life, you're going to need to establish new habits
Mm.
because if you don't, you're just going to stay the same way you are.
Yeah.
And there's always different times for different habits and such. Like I just finished up a sprint season in my life where I had in 4 weeks, I think I had like 120 coaching sessions, 16 events, and I did like 21 podcasts.
Damn.
And yeah, so I was like burnt out and I had to shift some of my habits up. So I don't know if I should say downgraded. I just kind of like changed it. So like I decided to start sleeping in a little bit more.
Mm.
I took some time in the middle of the day so I can kind of chill out, go for a walk with my girlfriend,
Yeah.
different things. But now I'm gearing back up for another sprint season. So now I'm like
Mm.
waking up early again, doing different things. And I think your habits are very crucial to the kind of life that you want to be living.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people fall victim to certain habits or things, and because they might feel like they can't change them,
Mm.
or that it's like impossible to get to some of those habits that people tell you got to do.
Yeah.
But I'd
Yeah.
love to hear a little bit more about your book.
Oh, sure. Well, so first of all, though, what I want to say is I love that you mentioned like you have like there's different seasons, right? Like you were saying, like
Yeah,
this was just like a sprinting thing, like where I was doing all this stuff and then I had changed it up. I think everyone experiences a certain amount of like imposter syndrome, sometimes. And so when I was writing my book, I was talking about this time where I used to hate running, and I got to the point of running a mile like every single morning, and I was doing it consistently. And like, that's like the main story of my book. It's just like, this is how I did this. Right. And it's funny though, because now I don't run still. Right. But I could sit here and be like, oh man, that was so I'm a fraud. Right. But what's funny about it is it's exactly what you said. Like, there are different phases, different seasons of your life. And the fact of the matter is that like, I could do that right now. Right. But I do it with other things, right? Like, I have other fitness goals, or like right now I'm doing this like kettlebell program or whatever. And I think like that's like a really important message when it comes to habits, because I feel like before I had habits figured out, I used to like beat myself up because I would like do something and then eventually I would want to do something else and switch. And it's like, habits are not about like you're not a computer, right? So you're not just going to like install this thing and then do this thing forever for the rest of your life. It's like, well, I mean, there's some things on my, that I do every day that I've done for years and I will continue to do for years, but there's other things that you kind of just switch up, right? Like, for example, when I was running a mile every morning, I moved across the country after that to somewhere where it was not like where I lived. I had like a treadmill that was, in the gym of the complex I lived in. And then when I moved, no treadmill. It was not ideal weather. It was like, I need to do something else for my fitness. And so anyway, saying all that to say is that like, I think when it comes to habits that like again, it comes to the mindset, right? Like, your mindset around it is super important. Like, you can't beat yourself up if you don't do it forever, because that's not the point of habits. Ultimately, to me, like, what I feel like is if you have a toolkit in order to be able to, like, implement new habits that you want to implement, that really is the key, because it's gonna change. Like, what you're doing in your life, like what you're working towards, all that's going to shift over time. And as long as you can go and implement new habits when you want to me, like, that's the value in it.
Oh my God, yeah. I think it's important to realize that you got to be adaptable and open to the change, and
Mm.
then really figuring out like what it is you want to do, and then really paying attention to like what works for you.
Mm.
Like the same mentor I keep talking about. His name is Brett, by the way.
Okay.
He's out in Arizona, and I remember when I first started going to a lot of his things, I'm like, oh, how do you do this? What's your morning routine like? And he's like, I just wake up, I play with my kid, and then he goes to school, and then I sit down, and I write my book, and then I go work out and I do this other stuff. I'm like, you don't have like a meditation like this. And he's like, no. And I'm like, damn, I wake up and I do gratitude, I do meditation, I practice my Spanish, I do this and then that. And then like, I got to do all these things. Otherwise my day's not going to be successful. And he's like, so what happens when you travel and you can't do that? I'm like, nothing, everything sucks, and then I have to like start over the next week. And he goes, dude, you're like creating like a prison for you. Like, you have this idea that like if you don't do all these things, you're not going to have a great day. Like, you just got to pick stuff that you want to focus on and like make the time to it. Like, if you want to get better at Spanish, instead of doing 15 minutes of everything, why don't you spend an hour doing it? Or if you want to mindfulness, like work it in whatever you're doing. Like, I was like, shoot, man, I've been like trying to set up this perfect routine, and I've been like a slave to it because of I wasn't paying attention to what I'm actually looking to do.
Yep. Man, I love that you said that. So, okay. One of the things I talk about in the book, so the book's kind of broken up into three parts, where the first part is kind of like foundational mindset stuff. Here, the book is called Habit Hacks. So it basically, like, the first part is like foundational mindset stuff. And then a bunch of the chapters in the middle are all like the like hacks to use to implement new habits. And then at the end of it, it's kind of more like mindset stuff, but it's like practical. Like, hey, you're going to be implementing habits. Like, this is some of the stuff that's probably going to come up for you. And one of the things is just about like being consistent, right? Because in your mind, when you think about habits, you think about, oh, like it's a habit, it's automatic, I just do it every day no matter what. When in reality, it's like you said, if that is your expectation, you're like fucking yourself over, because then the days you don't do it, you're like, oh my God, I feel so bad. I'm like, it's terrible. I didn't do what I was getting. Oh my gosh. You know what I mean? Like, for me, what I do, like, I realize that most of the stuff on my to-do list, I do about 80% of the time. And like, to me, that's not a failure. To me, that's like, that's perfect, because the days I don't do it, I'm not like thrown off. Like, I'm not beating myself up over it. I just go back to it on the next days. And like, I feel like that's like one of the, like, okay, before I had habits figured out, that was like the thing that kept throwing me off. And I'm sure it's like what throws everyone else off is you think that doing the habit is supposed to be 100% every day, no matter what. And then when you don't, you're like, I suck at habits. I suck, I'm terrible, and you just like you just completely go off the rails. When in reality,
Yeah.
it's like, dude, it's just not the end of the world. Like, get over it. Like, that's literally what it is. It's just like, you missed it. Okay, get over it. It's in the past. Move on with your life. And like, if you can actually do that, then you can do it 80% of the time instead of doing it like 30% and then falling off the rails and for the rest of the week, you know?
Yeah, it's like diet and nutrition. People are trying to lose weight, and then they're like, "Oh, my kid's birthday party, I can't do it," and then they like stress about it, and then they give in at the last minute, and they're like, "Great, now I got to start all over." It's like, just like, it's coming up. Like, why not just enjoy it and then just get back at it immediately afterwards?
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
There's ups and downs, and you're human. You got to be adaptable.
Yeah,
and move through it.
It's so funny. I said the thing earlier about sell people what they want and give them what they need. And what's hilarious is that like I didn't even realize, but I actually did do that with the book. Like there's all these chapters about hacks, which is what people are buying it for, right? Habit hacks. They want to know how, like, what are the hacks to implement new habits? But like it's kind of sandwiched in between this like mindset stuff that's like actually really like the most important thing, because the hacks are just kind of like, I mean, they're really good. Don't get me wrong. Like I use them all the time, but like they're secondary in my opinion to like the mindset going into using the hacks, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with you on that.
Yeah. Well, Rob, look, I appreciate you coming on, man. I think it's been great. I have a question. If anyone like wants to like connect with you, or like how would someone connect with you? How specifically, like, if like, who are you looking for to be able to help?
Like the perfect person is somebody who's kind of like they're like stuck spinning their wheels, and they're like looking to they know there's something else that they got to do. They got to connect, they got to do something. They're just not really sure what exactly it is. That's where we come in and just kind of sit down, run a diagnosis, and figuring out like, okay, well, where can we possibly do this? What is the game plan on how we can kind of improve on it? And then how do we make sure we get it done? And the easiest place to kind of like connect with me or ask me a question or just kind of like stay up to date with the different content and things is like social media.
Okay.
LinkedIn and Instagram are the biggest places I hang out.
Awesome. And so where can they find you on those?
Just my name, just searching Rob Tracz. Last name is Trac as in cat and Z as in zebra.
Awesome. All right, Rob. Well, I really appreciate you coming on. And I can say, like, just like we were talking about before, like, I think it's worth, if you haven't worked with a coach before, to like look into it. And if anyone listening, like, here's, you talking, Rob, and they're like, hey, I like this guy, I might jive with this guy, I think it's definitely worth like, chatting with you at least to see if it could be a good fit, because it was like we were talking about earlier, just having that third party, like someone to be able to step in and just have an overview and a perspective that you don't have on your life. Like it could really be like a game changer. So, so I definitely encourage anybody listening to connect with you over on social media. And, Rob, thanks again, man. I appreciate you coming on.
Of course, dude. This was fun. Thank you.
Yeah. Bye-bye. Thanks for being here. If you enjoyed this episode, please leave a review or share it with someone who'd appreciate it. For everything I have to offer, visit howtobeaperson.co.